What's up, friends? How y'all doing? Hope you're doing well. My name is Jesse Hughes, and I want to say thank you all for looking at another video that I'm getting ready to do. And if you find that this content is inspiring, you find out that it is motivating, if it's captivating, if it's positive, I want you to like my channel. I want you to, hit a notification button. I want you to subscribe to my channel. And I want you to share it with a friend, a loved one, a family member, whoever might need this information that I'm about to give you. And I was thinking about, life. I was thinking about the things that we go through in life. I'm a real sports fanatic. I love sports. I love basketball, football, track and field. But, and some of those events that I like, it is dependent upon an individual. And then some of the sports that I like is dependent upon a team, dependent on a person, doing one thing and you doing another thing to make you successful. But I was looking at the track and field, the 400-meter relay. Man, I was thinking about that, as it pertains to life. A lot of times we we go through life and we're passing the baton to the next person so that they can run. And in order to achieve or accomplish a victory, it is important to know that our victory is dependent upon how much that other person is successful also. And I was looking at that as far as with generational things, a lot of times we go through things, we experience a lot of things in life, and it is because of the baton that has been passed on to us. It's because of the generations that were before us. Maybe it might have been our great-grandparents, it might have been our grandparents, our parents, or even us that have experienced certain things in life, and it was because of the generational pool, how much they affected our lives. A lot of times we look at it and when it comes to heirlooms, when it comes to things that are passed down from generation to generation. And I've also learned that, in one ethnicity over to another ethnicity, one ethnicity always passed down like certain heirlooms. It might be a jewelry, it might be, it might be a watch, it might be a bracelet, a necklace, it might be a wedding gown or something like that. One ethnicity would always pass down heirlooms to the grandkids, and they would pass it down to their kids, and they would pass it down to their kids. So it was always a type of passing down of something. And then that's how it was in some societies also. They're passing down certain traditions. They're passing down certain laws. They're passing down certain sayings and belief systems. So it is always something that is passed down from one generation to another generation. I've grown up in church all my life. I've, been in holiness, Pentecostal, sanctified forever since I was 17 years old. And we've always heard of the idea of having a generational curse, having, generational curses placed upon us. But, I'm not so much as talking about generational curse today or tonight whenever you watch this video, but I'm talking about a generational trauma, or generational consequences. And a lot of times, we go through certain things in life as it pertains to how we feel, how we think, how we perceive some things. And it's because it was passed down from one generation to the other generation. And you might say, Jesse, well, what does it mean to have generational trauma? Generational trauma is trauma that is not just experienced by one person, but generational trauma is a prolonged something that is passed down from one generation to the next generation. And if you know anything about that, anything about sin, the Bible says in the book of Genesis, in Romans, it says, wherefore by one man's sin entered into the world, and death was passed down to every man. And that lets you know that there are certain things that we go through in life that is generational, that is passed down from one person to the next person. And generational trauma was first recognized in the year of 1966. And in this year of 1966, there was a study done by a guy by the name of Dr. Vivian Ratloff and his people and his colleagues. And they, did a study, they did statistics and found out that some things that we go through in life, for as anxiety, sometimes we be depressed, sometimes we're experiencing PTSD. We just experience a lot of different things. And the reason why we experience those things, because it was passed down from family to family to family. It was passed down from my great-grandfather, our great-grandmother. It was passed down to their kids, to us. So we experience a lot of different things because of the generational trauma or the generational consequences or the generational curses that is being placed upon us by our great-grandparents, our grandparents, our parents, and us. So, a lot of time we go through certain things. Like I said, we go through anxieties, we go through depressions, we go through PTSD, we go through a lot of different things because it was passed down. And in this study in the 1966, it found out that it was pertaining to the Holocaust. If you know anything about the Holocaust, it was when Adolf Hitler had imprisoned and killed many Jews during that time. He put them in concentration camps, how he starved them, how he began to murder and kill them. And then during this time of, the Holocaust, the survivors of the Holocaust, they found out that the people that survived the Holocaust, that they studied them in the mid-1940s. In 1966, 1965, they did another study on their grandkids and found out that their grandkids was affected by the same thing that they was affected back in the 1940s, 1944, 1945. So you got to understand that certain things that we experience now, we experience those because our grandparents experienced those. We experience certain personalities, certain attributes because it was passed on to us by our parents, by our grandparents, by our great-grandparents. It lets you know the importance of not only eating right, not only having a certain type of persona or attributes, but it is important to know that if we live a certain way, it can affect our kids, it could affect our kids' kids, it could affect those that come along way behind us. And not only that, there also was a study, during the same time of the Holocaust in October of 1944, and it was something by the name of the Dutch Hunger Winter. And it was during this time that the Jews would, stop the flow of food, the flow of starvation to the Netherlands. And then during those times, they would starve out the people in Dutch, the people in the Netherlands, and they found out that over 20,000 people had been killed from starvation during the times of October 1944 until 1945. And in those times, it lets them know that, although they was being starved out, they was being, done without food, that even someone was pregnant, some ladies was pregnant, was, having babies, and in that time also, their baby was being affected by the same things that they was being affected by. Lets you know that sometimes you're going through certain things, sometimes you're experiencing some things, sometimes you might be stressful, go through anxieties, and you can pass on those same type of anxiety, those same types of depressions, those same type of PTSDs to your kids, to your grandkids, to your grandkids' kids. So you got to understand that whatever you do in life, it not only affects you, but it affects your kids, it affects your grandkids. Therefore, you got to understand and realize that it is important how we live. It is important how we eat. It is important how we conduct ourselves in life as far as human beings, because it is not only affecting us, but it's affecting the people that is coming on beside us. And not only that, you got to understand when it comes to generational trauma can not only affect your mental aspect, the mental, how you think and how you perceive some things, but when it comes to generational trauma, it can affect you for your immune system. Not only it can affect your immune system, it can affect your brain system, how your brain is able to perceive certain things because of the trauma that was placed on you by your grandparents or by your great-grandparents. It just lets you know that regardless of what goes on, that we're not just living for us. We're not just living for us today, but we're passing on certain traits. We're passing on certain, problems. We're passing on certain traumas to our kids, to our grandkids, to our grandkids' kids, to let them know that, if you might be depressed in a certain area, it's because of the people that was before you. You've got to understand also when it comes to generational trauma, that is why some generations have the fight or flight syndrome more prevalent than others. How they have the freeze or the fawn response. This is because certain communities or certain generations, it was taught to fight, taught to be more stubborn than the other generation. And that goes on with animals also. We see that when some animals are starved out, not given food, they will become more aggressive than the person or the animal that was just given food all the time. It lets you know that, what you do in life, it will affect you, it will affect your kids, it will affect your kids' kids. Therefore, you've got to live right, you've got to be able to eat right, you've got to be able to make sure that you're doing the right thing as far as your mental psyche, so that you won't affect someone in a positive way, so you won't affect them in a negative way as far as the depression, as far as the anxiety. So I want to let you all know that regardless of what goes in life, make sure that you're not passing on bad traits, bad personalities, bad attributes to your kids, to your grandkids, to your grandkids' kids, because we're living in a day in society that whatever we can do alleviate the pressure, the problem, the anxieties, let's do that. And if it causes us to not want our kids to be like us, to be better than us, let's do that. And I want to let you all know that if I said something as far as generational trauma, far as generational consequences, let's try to make things better for our kids. Let's try to make things better for not only our kids, but for our grandkids and our grandkids' kids, so they can look back and say, my grandmother, my grandfather was somebody great that I admired and looked up to. So if you find out this information to be informative, to be enlightening, to be encouraging, I want you to hit that notification button. I want you to hit that like button. I want you to share with a friend, share with a loved one, share with a neighbor, and subscribe to my channel. So until this time, next time, I want to say God bless you, and God bless you.